You know, the best ideas don't always come from a university lab or some philosopher's grand study. Sometimes they come from the most unexpected places. This story, it starts with a handyman, a carpenter from the British countryside, and he wasn't trying to build some grand theory of everything. He was just trying to prove a daydream wrong, a little idea that popped into his head and just wouldn't leave him alone. Turns out, he failed. Spectacularly. Let's find out why. At the very heart of this whole thing is a single, powerful question. What if all our science, all our spirituality, what if they're not in conflict at all? What if they're just two different languages, using different words to describe the exact same reality? The handyman wasn't trying to build a bridge between these two worlds. He was just poking holes in his own idea. And this bridge, it just started to build itself. For a solid decade, he was his own biggest skeptic. He threw everything he had at this idea. I'm talking quantum mechanics, Einstein's relativity, ancient scriptures, documented paranormal cases, the whole shebang. He was absolutely certain it would fall apart under the pressure. But here's the spooky part. It didn't. In fact, the more he tried to break it, the stronger it got. So here's the game. This is the simple, almost playful premise he started with. Let's just forget everything we believe or don't believe for a minute. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that a soul exists. Now, what would it have to be like to fit within the known laws of physics? Let's take it out of the realm of faith and reverse engineer it with science. Okay, so to do that, you need a basic definition, right? You have to strip away all the dogma and get to the core. Across pretty much every culture and tradition, you find three common ideas. The soul is immaterial, it's eternal, and it's fundamentally connected to us. So we just translate that into the language of physics. Immaterial becomes massless, it has no physical stuff. Eternal becomes timeless, and connected means it's an integral part of our existence. Suddenly, we have a testable hypothesis. Now, this is where physics takes this little thought experiment and makes it really, really weird. According to Einstein's relativity, if you have mass, you experience time. The faster you move, the slower time passes. But what about something with zero mass? Now, this is important. It's not moving at the speed of light, but its masslessness creates the very same effect, total time dilation. For a massless thing, time doesn't just slow down, it stops. It experiences no time at all. The beginning of the universe and the end of the universe happen in the same instant. From our slow, clunky, mass-bound point of view, a thing like that would seem to be everywhere and everywhen all at once. It would be non-local. Okay, hold on. So if this non-local awareness exists, where does it exist? If it can see everything all at once, what is the everything it's seeing? The model we have just isn't big enough. We're going to need a bigger map. A map of all of reality that's vast enough to actually hold an idea like this. So let's build this map step by step. Start with 0 dimensions, a single tiny point. Now stack an infinite number of those points together and boom, you get a one-dimensional line. Stack an infinite number of those lines side by side, you get a 2D plane. Now stack infinite planes on top of each other and you get our 3D space. But it's just a single frozen snapshot of the universe. To get motion, you have to line up every single one of those snapshots, from the Big Bang all the way to the end. That's a 4D block universe, a complete timeline. But wait, that only describes one path. What about all the choices you didn't make? For that, we need a 5th dimension, an infinite library containing every possible timeline that could ever exist. And this gives us this incredible, beautiful analogy for our place in all of this. Imagine your physical, 3D body is the point of a needle. And there are billions of other needles, all moving through this vast cosmic fabric. The path your needle weaves, full of all the twists and turns of your choices, that's the 4D thread of your life. Now, from your perspective, down at the needle's tip, you only see the single point you're in right now. But this massless awareness we're talking about, it isn't stuck at the tip of the needle. It sees the entire completed tapestry you've already woven. And not just yours. It sees every other tapestry, from every other needle, and every possible tapestry that could have been woven, all at once, in some kind of vast, timeless museum. So what do you even call a thing like that? This single, unified awareness? Well, the handyman gave it a name, the massless field of awareness, or MFA for short. Think of it like an uber soul. Because if every individual soul is massless and non-local, then they all occupy the exact same place, everywhere and everywhen. There's literally no space between them. By the very logic of physics, they aren't just connected, they have to be one and the same thing. And this idea, it flips one of our most fundamental assumptions completely on its head. The standard scientific view is that the brain is a generator. It takes mushy biological stuff and somehow, magically, creates consciousness. But in this model, the brain isn't a generator at all, it's a filter. Consciousness is fundamental. It's the universal broadcast signal from the MFA. Our brain is just a biological receiver that tunes into that infinite, timeless awareness and narrows it down into the tiny little trickle we call me, living right here, right now. It's what we need to survive in a 3D world. And here, my friends, is where it gets really, really spooky. After a decade of trying to tear this idea apart, the handyman finally let himself ask, okay, but what if it's true? What if this framework, which he called panpartisan, actually holds any water? Well, it turns out, this one simple idea doesn't just answer one question. It starts to offer a completely new perspective on dozens of the biggest mysteries we've ever faced in both science and spirituality. For physicists, it's wild. The measurement problem in quantum mechanics, why does reality seem to snap into place only when we look at it? Maybe that's just the act of a localized consciousness, our brain, filtering one reality out of the infinite possibilities of the MFA. And the massive divide between relativity and quantum mechanics? Maybe they're just descriptions of reality from two totally different points of view, one with mass and one without. All that spooky action at a distance suddenly starts to feel a whole lot less spooky. And the rabbit hole goes so much deeper. If the brain is just a filter, then what is death? It's not the end of consciousness, it's just turning off the filter. Those near-death experiences people report, maybe that's the filter malfunctioning, giving us a terrifying or beautiful peek at the wider reality. The higher self from spiritual traditions. That could just be our own awareness, but from the unfiltered perspective of the MFA. And the concept of God? Well, it might just be the name that countless cultures have given to this single, unified, timeless field of awareness that contains everything. And this leads to what is, for me, the most profound and chilling implication of the entire framework, the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We think of it as good moral advice. But what if it's not advice? What if it's a statement of structural fact, like gravity? If we are all just tiny, filtered viewpoints of the same single field of awareness, then from the MFA's perspective, helping someone else is literally helping yourself, and harming them is a literal act of self-harm. So we're back where we started, with the handyman who never set out to build a theory of anything. He was just a guy with a curious mind who spent his spare time trying to poke a hole in a daydream he had. He followed the logic with brutal honesty, fully expecting it to fail at every turn. But it didn't. Instead, he kept finding echoes of it everywhere, described with this eerie precision in the equations of quantum physics, the pages of ancient scripture, and the reports of paranormal events. So what are we left with here? A single, elegant framework that seems to connect the dots between our most advanced science and our most ancient wisdom. Is this a genuine map of reality? A glimpse into the fundamental architecture of the cosmos? Or is it just the most coherent, resilient, and elaborate daydream a person has ever had? That's the question, and it's one heck of a question to think about.